Hello and good morning to everyone. Karibuni sana to ACCUREX o'clock. Finally, the end of the year is here, and we can never be too excited. And I was just looking at how many topics we've covered in the last year, and John will attest to you. Trying to narrow down to this topic, you were like, we've covered everything. So, one, which has been a very interesting year, that I must say. Thank you so much for your patronage. Today marks the end of our webinar series for year 2025, and I could not have been happier. I believe we've delivered over 40 different topics. So by now, if we were giving a degree, John, I think this is the time to give that bachelor's degree in workplace topics, because I think we've covered pretty much everything: communication, emotional intelligence. We've talked sales, we've talked about AI, we've talked about technology, we've talked about conflicts, and when I was starting, that was my dream or my vision, was like, we can bring workplace topics, small ones. I think it was at the end of last year I learned about the concept of micro learning. Micro learning is the idea that you can take one topic and learn it in the shortest time possible. So it's the same vision that I brought into 2025, that is it possible that you can take workplace topics, small as they could be, and try to translate them in the bite size, and within an hour or less, that someone can really pick a topic and be able to learn from it. And I feel so proud that to be here, especially this morning, that I'm very confident that a lot of people have micro learned throughout the year. And today also brings us a topic that will bridge 2025 to 2026. And I like the topic of just moving from chaos and also creating clarity, especially when things, systems, processes come into place. I know the end of the year brings us a lot of ideas, especially new year goals. I don't know how many of us have already written the new year goals. We already have, but I think I need to do a strong reflection of also what I wrote in end of 2024. Though I see if it has really worked with these new year goals or what. But also from a HR perspective, from a leadership perspective, I hope you're also dreaming big for your teams in year 2026 and move away from the concept of leadership by chaos, because I think a lot of us excel at that whenever we are leading, it's very chaotic. People are not able to see clarity in our leadership. So I'm hoping this webinar will be able to bridge for us that what does it mean to create clarity in terms of operations, in terms of systems, in terms of discipline. And this year, I think we've had the best of it, of the Gen Zs, because I believe a big chunk of them joined our workplace. And I know anyone I talk to, be it a business owner, be it a leader, be it a HR manager, they're like, what is all this with this new generation? So I'm hoping we'll get a bit of clarity and also get used to, like, this is the team that is in our workplace, and how are we able to manage them also moving into 2026. So none other than John Weru is here with us to help us wind down this wonderful topic, this wonderful webinar series, to give us insights. He's well learned, I must say, well, with a lot of experience. I enjoy how he's able to break down big workplace topics into very small, understandable concepts. And I must say thank you, John, once again, from your last webinar when we did the prompts. Hey, I've become a prompt engineer. If I must say, and I think that was a very timely topic. I know we also did a follow-up on AI, something around AI that was a follow-up from your topic of prompting. So thank you so much. And you can be amazed. This is not what we had anticipated, that we'll be talking about AI like for 5 series. So I'm very happy that we are here so far. So the structure of this webinar is we'll start with a presentation that will take about 45 minutes, give or take. And then we'll have a Q&A session at the very tail end. You can ask your questions on the chat box. You can keep it interactive. Today being the last session, we are really excited to hear what year 2025 has been to you, especially the topics we brought your way. What new topics are you looking forward to, especially come January, because we'll be coming back in January? So I'm very interested just to give us insights, because what December means to us is we go back and ask ourselves, which topics did we do? What was the impact of these topics? What new topics can we want to target in 2026? So that is the commitment you can get from us at ACCUREX. And as always, we've been the chief sponsor of these webinars. So very happy to have you. John, over to you. I'm happy to come back and talk a little bit more about ACCUREX at the very tail end. But for now, John, this is Arena.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Just do a thumbs up if you can. Okay. All right. Very good. So it's a good morning to everybody, and I'm happy to be talking to all of you about chaos to clarity, structure, order, discipline. Yeah. Now, usually those are not usually our cup of tea. Those are usually topics that we don't always like talking about. And maybe before I launch into my PowerPoint, I'd just like to hear from everybody. When you think of the word order, structure, discipline, what comes to mind? Just think of the mental picture that those words create. Anyone? Anybody? You can also indicate in the chat if maybe in a place where you can't talk.
Maybe John, I can help you open up the floor.
No problem.
Yes, when I hear order or structure, for me it means there's a plan, there's a strategy to it. We know where we are going. I like the 7 habits of a successful leader, where the second one says, you know the end, you have the end in mind even before you start. So for me, if you talk about order or you talk about structure, I want to know where are we heading to, or what are we leading to? Because if we know that, then it means there's some order or there's some thought process that has gone to it, other than just going. We don't know if you're going to Nax or Naivasha or Nanyuki. So for me, order is just knowing that this is the destination you're heading to, and this is how we are getting there.
Thank you. Okay, I can see somebody has written systems in place. All right. Thank you very much, Purity, for that. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anything, even if it's negative, it doesn't always have to be positive. Some of us probably have a negative reaction towards these words for whatever reason. Okay. Today's an opportunity to also fungua roho if sometimes these words do give you a negative connotation. Anyone? Anyone? Yes. So that is what we will be talking about. And direction. Veronica, you said direction. Thank you very much. Now, many of us do appreciate order. We appreciate structure. We appreciate discipline. Designated way of doing things from Barbara when you call it. Thank you. Yes. So all of us have that mentality. But the question is, why is it that when you look at our organizations, we always notice that sometimes we seem to be run things by chaos. Things do not run the way they should. And that is what we're going to try and explore. That we know the advantages, we know the benefits of having structure, of having order, of having discipline. But why is it that the lived reality tends to be one of chaos, of confusion, of not knowing what is what. And that is what I intend for us to unpack this morning. And at the end of it, please feel free to jump in at any time. At the end of it, we should be in a better place to understand the difference between the desired situation versus the outcome, and how we can get this outcome to move to the desired place. So let me just share my PowerPoint, and then we can launch, we can begin right into it. 1 minute. Okay. Okay. Yes. So the first thing that I'd like us to discuss is probably.
John, do you want to put it on presenter mode?
Okay, let me do that. Presenter mode. Okay. Use presenter view.
Just say from the beginning.
From the beginning here.
Yes, yes.
And then minimize, yeah?
Uh, uh, just click from the beginning and then we see what it will come out of that.
Okay, already clicked from the beginning.
Okay, then you're not sharing the correct screen.
Okay, just a minute. Let me just. Okay. Oh, it's. Okay, 1 minute. And how about now?
There are not any changes happening. So I'm assuming maybe the page you've projected is not the correct one.
Okay.
All right, but you can go ahead anyway. We're able to see it. So you can just go ahead.
Okay. And how about now?
It's only that it's not a full screen.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But I think you can proceed.
Okay, that's all right. Yes. Okay. So I'd like us to begin by understanding these words that we use all the time: chaos, clarity. Where do they come from? So I'm going to give you a brief linguistics lesson on where these words come from, and then we're going to try and tie that together to understand how these matter to us. Now, the English word chaos comes to us from classical Greece. And in classical Greece, in Greek, the word chaos comes from the Greek word house. And house has the idea of, did not originally mean disorder. What it meant was a void, a vast, yawning emptiness, formlessness, nothingness, the point before creation. And for some of us, maybe those of us who are good Bible readers, Genesis 1 verse 2 talks about the earth being formless and there being water all over the surface. It didn't have any shape. So in Greek, that concept is described as house. And that was the first state of existence, the universe before the gods, before the sky, before anything had shape or a name. And when you think about maybe your organization, you might feel that this is where you are. You're in the original state of house. And that is now what we want to see, how we can move from that house, that void, that situation where there seems to be no structure, no order, and anything, to a situation of clarity. So it changed meaning when the Romans came. It changed in meaning to chaos, to what we now recognize as disorganized or lacking order, to the modern meaning that now refers to total disorder and confusion. How about the word clarity? When we talk about the word clarity, well, that comes to us from Latin. And clarity comes from the Latin word claritas, meaning brightness, clearness, splendor. And that comes from the adjective clarus, meaning clear, bright, illustrious, and famous. And it has come to us into English through Old French and Middle English, which means clearness and lucidity. So when we talk about these two words and how they apply to our organizations, we want to see how it is that we can move from emptiness to structure. When we're talking about moving from chaos to clarity, we want to see how we can move from emptiness to structure, darkness to light, and defined to defined, potential to execution. And that is exactly what we want to talk about for the next few more minutes. Now, here's the quote that comes to us that a bad system will beat a good person every time. Now, I'd just like to hear from you. When you think about what that quote says, a bad system will beat a good person every time. Do you agree with that quote? Anyone? Is there anybody who can share what they feel about that quote? Maybe on the either on the chat or maybe say something. Feel free. Anyone? Yes, maybe as you continue on thinking about it, we can continue on discussing about the topic that we are discussing. Feel free to also include your comments on the chat box, and we want to go straight into it and see why people can never be systems. You see, people are wonderful. We are all wonderful. We are all fearfully and wonderfully made, but we forget. People resign. They leave jobs. They get sick. They have moods. They take shortcuts. They disappear on Friday at 4:59 p.m. And that is something that systems do not. If you want something new, you must stop doing something old. And that's something that was said to us by Peter Drucker. If we want order, if we want structure, if we want discipline, then we have to stop running organizations by charisma, ujanja, or whatever other methods, shortcut that one may be currently using. The organization has to run like a machine. It has to have a process. And maybe I can use an example from football at this point. Many of us have heard of the German team and maybe know what the German football team is usually known by the German name, the Mannschaft. You know, anybody here who is a football fan who can explain to us the concept of the Mannschaft? Anyone? The idea is the way they play like a machine. Every department works, whether it is midfield, whether it is striking, whether it is defense. They all work like a working machine. So they may not always win every World Cup, but because of that, they have consistent performance throughout the years. And our organizations have to be run in a similar manner. If you want to be able to achieve great results, then you cannot just rely on how people will do things on a particular day. There has to be a process, there has to be a system that works every time, consistently and unfailingly. Now, typically, the reason why chaos happens is because we have developed a culture of having undocumented work. Approvals are done through WhatsApp or through Facebook or through some other means that is not procedural. There are unclear responsibilities. So job descriptions are not very accurately described. Then you've got this instruction that sometimes may come at a moment's notice. You're just told to do it because I'm the one saying it. Then you have an over reliance on personalities and a nostalgia for this is the way we've always done it over the years. But you see, if we want to be able to do things properly, then there's one thing that we have to borrow from the country that everybody seems to want to imitate, Singapore. Structure beats talent. When you have the right structures in place, then if you compare structures versus talent, then structure beats every time. And maybe if you think about your organization, the question is, what kind of structures do you have currently? Are those structures adequate enough to be able to take you to where you want to go as an organization. You may probably have the best of talent. Maybe HR are doing their job in being able to look for people who are able to contribute to the bottom line, people who are able to bring their best, their A game, as it were. But if they find a place where they don't have structures that can enable them achieve that, that can support them in being able to turn and be able to move your companies forward, then you're not going to be able to achieve the kind of results that you are looking for. So here's a question that I want to just pose to you at this point, and I'd really encourage some audience discussion on this topic. Why do many Kenyan companies fail to implement systems that could make a difference? What do you think is happening behind the scenes? Is there anybody who can share some insights from what you've seen, either from where you work or from other places you've worked before? Why do you think many Kenyan companies fail to implement the kind of systems that can help them really, really succeed? Anyone? Feel free to speak. Or if you want, you can raise your hand. Wilfred, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, John. Hi. I would think one of the many reasons would be people want to stay. They'll think systems will replace them,
Yes.
so they want to stay in the know. You know, those types of people whom you want to, when you are stuck, you have to call them. So they want to be relevant, and they think systems will come and replace them. So that would be one of the things. Yeah.
Yeah, Wilfred, actually, you've taken the words out of my mouth. Thank you very much. Barbara, go ahead.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
I think that in many organizations, people are used to doing things in a certain way, or they are, they feel comfortable remaining in that kind of a state. So when you try to change systems or, try to bring in new things, that's a threat to them. And also many people resist change. So they'll rather remain in the status quo.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Anybody else? Ruth Nkoji, go ahead.
I also think the people who thrive in that confusion. And
Expound, Ruth. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ruth. Expound.
I'm thinking where we do not have clear documentation, the roles are not very clear.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who will thrive, watapita tu katikati ya hiyo chaos, and they will benefit from it.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Anybody else? I love hearing from you. Okay. On the chat, I can see a few comments. I can see Violet Simiu says people fear change because the future is uncertain. Eric Mudomi, everyone is looking for shortcuts to success with less investment or reduced expenses, plus a culture of not following rules and procedures in Kenya, lack of insights on the systems, resources, challenges, and more so love for shortcuts, or they want to stay traditional. And then Cynthia says resistance from the employees. Yeah, thank you very much for those views. Anybody else before we proceed? Ruth, you still have your hand up? You still want to continue to add? Okay, Milka says there are people who benefit from chaos. Rhoda says incompetence and sheer laziness. Okay. Anybody else? Yes. So we basically know what we're talking about, isn't it? That there is a cultural problem where people just do not want to follow systems. People prefer to use shortcuts. Now, how is it that we can go about changing this perception? We're definitely not going to change 53 million people. We're not going to be able to change a whole country. But what is it that we can do within our places of work that can help us to begin to appreciate the value of having systems that work? Now, it has to do with the way systems are sold to employees. You see, when you think about systems, when you think about structure, order, discipline, probably the best example of that would probably be our boarding schools. How many of us in the audience went to boarding school? How many? Raise your hand if you went to a boarding school. Yeah, it's quite a number of us, yeah? Yes. So when you think about structure and order and discipline, you think about boarding school, and you know that rules are enforced usually very painfully. Okay. And so typically, even though people may appreciate the value of order, sometimes the emotional, what the emotional feel that the whole thing brings to them is a reminder of boarding school. And maybe if you've served in the disciplined forces, maybe the same. However, there's a way we can go about it that would be able to make people feel that this is something I want to do. Okay. Okay. If you want to take on the role of that very harsh deputy principal or maybe prefect, head prefect, then you won't get very far with people because it will probably bring back all those old memories. And you want to avoid that. We need systems, we need order, we need structure, we need discipline, but we need to do it in a way that people will actually want to buy in into the order, into the structure, into the discipline. And that is what we want to try and unpack today. How do we go about doing it? Now, there are a few points that I have shared, I want to share with you, and maybe you feel free to add in the chat, or even if you want to speak, I'll be happy to listen to you. The first thing that we want not to do is don't sell processes, that this is what you must do, then you do this, then you do this, then you do that. Instead, sell the peace of mind that comes with that particular system that you want to introduce. Okay. And when people see that this system is going to mean that rather than me being given a call by 10 people every morning asking for the same information, they can quickly go to the intranet or they can go to some chatbot to be able to find the information that they are looking for. You see, when people see the personal benefit that comes from the system you're trying to introduce, then you have much better buy-in. Let me give you an example of a system that we all use, or that probably some of us use, that because we see the benefit, we are able to buy in. And I'll just give you a few examples. Many of us have probably used the SGR. How many of us have ever used the SGR? You're going to Mombasa, you're going to Suswa. How many of us? Okay, that's quite a number, isn't it? Now, the SGR works on a system. This is a very basic system. And the system is meant to transport passengers and cargo from Nairobi to Mombasa or to other destinations in the country. Now, typically on the street, you'll often hear people saying that Kenyans are always late. But I'd like to know how many of us would ever want to get late for the SGR? None. Never. Never. Yeah. Why? Because we know this train will start on time. If it is 8 o'clock, it's exactly 8 o'clock, and you'll get to your destination. You can even predict that you'll be able to get to your destination 5 hours later. So there's a personal benefit. Unlike a matatu, which will have to wait at the stage, they'll go picking up people along the way. Sometimes they'll stop because there's a breakdown. You basically do not know when you'll arrive at your destination. But when it comes to the train, you know that the moment that train takes off from the terminus, you know you'll be in Mombasa, or you'll be in Voi, or you'll be in Emali or Sultan Hamud at a particular time. So when people see that there's a benefit to it, that I can actually organize my life around this system, I can actually organize my tasks around this system, then you'll often have a lot more buying. You avoid the stress that comes from a system that is either lacking or poorly defined, a system that is built in chaos. The next thing that you'll also need to look at is the shortcut culture. And in Kenya, we love shortcuts. If you just want to know, look at traffic in the evening on any major highway. Even when traffic is moving, there'll always be that one crazy driver who will want to drive on the curb, drive on the pavement, and feeling that he needs to get to where he wants to go much faster and before everybody else. But you see, what works in traffic does not necessarily work in operations in the office. Why? Because when an organization becomes addicted to shortcuts, at some point, that work will have to be reworked. There is inconsistent attendance to customers, and then there are delays that will inevitably be caused by improvisation. And you see, when people now start seeing that these shortcuts we're taking are costing us in the long run, then and people start feeling the pain of those shortcuts, then it becomes easier for us to be able to move away from that culture to one that is more systematic in its approach and more structured. The other reason that people fear systems, and that is why we've had that even from some of the participants, is that people fear accountability, and accountability is scary because, again, culturally, if one is going to be held accountable for something that they have done, usually what accompanies it is pain. Okay, and it's from home, from the home environment. Somebody comes late without trying to understand the reasons why you've come late. A parent has already launched the belt or the kiboko. Okay, in school, the same. We're used to environments where accountability comes along with pain. However, if we are going to have systems that are going to work, then it is going to be important for us to be able to create psychological safety. Okay, inevitably, the system will expose poor performance and it will expose other things that have been happening that are not good. Maybe there's even been fraud going on, but systems will bring all that to clarity, to light. So, how do you do it? So, ensure that the process helps the people to be able to adapt to the systems. Okay? Correct processes first, then people second. If a process is not working as you begin to introduce your system, try and examine it. Is there anything we can do differently to ensure that people are able to adapt to this process much better and much faster? Then, as the system is being introduced, the next thing you also want to do is to spend as much time as you can in coaching people on how to use that particular system. And then when they do something well, praise them publicly. So it has to be you almost have to be like a parent, as it were, because you are creating something new, you're creating order, you're creating discipline in an environment where there has been none. And then as you implement the system, let it feel like it's something that people will feel protected to follow and not just surveillance. We're used to systems that are designed to watch us. What are you doing? You're not working. Why are you doing this? Okay. And maybe sometimes we feel it even in our place of work. But systems that help people are systems that feel a lot more like we are protected by following this system. It works for me because I'm very clear about my rights. I'm clear about my duties. I'm clear about my responsibilities. And I'm also clear about the outcomes of this system that I'm trying to introduce. So, yes, one of the things that people fear about systems is that they'll be held accountable. But accountable does not always have to be painful. It can always be used as a learning process so that everybody is able to learn and be able to move forward. The other reason why sometimes systems also don't work in many Kenyan companies is because the biggest lawbreakers, the biggest system breakers tend to be managers. Okay, the rebellion does not always come from junior staff. They're not usually the ones who have the problem. Sometimes the problem may be in the middle or even in the senior levels of management. Now, what are some excuses that sometimes middle management and sometimes even senior management might use as to why they do not want to implement a system that has already been agreed on or decided? Well, number one, I'm too busy. You'll always hear that sometimes, that I'm too busy to do it this way. Another one, we've always done it differently. Okay. Then there's also a very favorite one, and this one now is something called executive fiat, that just do it, we'll document it later. So if managers do not follow these systems, then is it fair to expect that junior staff will follow the systems? Okay. And this probably is more of a cultural problem. We've often noticed that many times the laws are designed for people who are much, much lower in the pecking order, but then people at the top seem to get away with almost anything. But if you want a system to work, then the folks at the top, those ones leading at the top, the C-suite executives need to lead from the front. They need to lead by example. So if the managers are not going to implement the system, or if they're not going to be its champions, then you can just as well forget about the entire system. It won't work. If it doesn't have buy-in from the top, and the top actually lead by example, then nobody else is going to do it. Now, I'd like to give probably an example on this. And I do not hold the brief for anybody. I'm just using it as an example to illustrate the point. Now, some of us probably have had their work taking them to other parts of East Africa. And in particular, there's one country that Kenyans have had quite a lot of until some of us are beginning to get a little tired of hearing about it. And that is the order and structure in Kigali. Now, whatever you may think about what goes on there, but there's something that we can use to illustrate this point. Now, probably some of us may have had that once a month there is a national program of people shutting down in the mornings on a Saturday and then cleaning up the entire country. Now, that's a system that works. Everybody knows that the last Saturday of the month is going to be cleanup day. Now, for it to work, and the reason why it was worked so well is because you have the senior leadership, the top leadership in the country being seen going from ditch to ditch in their neighborhood, collecting trash and actually cleaning up their neighborhood. So when people see that those ones at the top are actually doing it, then typically you find that everybody else falls in line. Everybody knows that this is what we need to do. This is how we need to do things. And when it is done consistently, with time, it now becomes a national culture, such that even when the leader is not around, maybe has gone on a state visit somewhere else, nobody will know, nobody will say, no, we don't know what to do, because they know that that's the last day of the month. This is what we need to be able to do. Now, that example illustrates what we're talking about here. If, say, for example, you want to move to a paperless environment, you've created a system around that. Does the leadership still require that you fill forms in triplicate, or have they also embraced doing everything digitally? So a lot of these things are the things that we're talking about. Leadership has to signal and has to model the kind of behavior that we're trying to implement in our organizations. Perhaps very important for a system to work, especially in our local environment, keep it simple. One of the things that this country does not like, and maybe you've seen culturally people don't like, they hate complexity. They hate anything that will make them think too hard about what you're supposed to do. Now, of course, there's a place for thinking. There's a place where we need to think about how we're going to do certain things. But generally, the best way to do it is to keep things as simple as possible. Now, thank you, Bernard. I can see you said, Bernard, let me just read your comment before I proceed. Sorry, it's disappeared. 1 minute. Yes, people fear systems. Okay. Bernard Rochich, you didn't complete your comment. I'm still waiting. Okay, complete your comment. I'll be happy to read it. Yes. So people fear complicated systems. Okay. If you're going to write a standard operating procedure document, to the extent possible, keep it to 1 page, if you can. Okay. Or maybe just let me illustrate the principle here. Try to make it as simple as possible. Try to make it as brief as possible, and try to use as plain English as you can. Okay. Use simple checklists. Use fewer approval layers so that decisions are made faster. Use familiar tools. Use clear language. Okay. If somebody needs to have a lot of coffee and prayers and all that to be able to understand what you want them to do, then that principle will, or that system is definitely going to fail. Now, many of us, or probably the systems that we have gotten used to over the years, were really not designed with simplicity in mind. They were designed to keep everything opaque. They were designed to keep everything unclear, so that whoever was designing the system could retain the power and the control over his subjects. Now, that is a culture we need to move away from. Okay, making it complicated does not make it any better. The simpler it is, of course, we also don't want to oversimplify. The simpler we do it, the better for everybody. When everybody understands what is supposed to be done, when it's supposed to be done, and how it's supposed to be done, and the expected outcomes, then you'll have a lot more buy-in from the audience that you are talking to. Then, of course, tied to personal benefit, people will never support a system that they do not see, a system where they do not see what it will do for them. So create systems that give credit that is due for work done, that enable somebody to be protected from blame, where there are clear procedures on the outcomes expected and sanctions again. Then ensure a system allows for faster task completion and also enables people to know how they are going to get or have a much better career path in the organization. So organizations that succeed at this are able to ensure or help their employees know, okay, if I stay at this job or in this job, there are these opportunities for promotion or for getting ahead, and these are the terms. If we have those systems and it's not opaque, it's very transparent to everybody, then that is a system that will definitely have buy-in. Let people be able to calculate their own personal ROI or the return on buy-in, if you like. Okay. And once you do that, once people are able to see that I'm able to benefit from this system being implemented, then you'll find that adoption will often go all the way up. Okay. And that is something that many systems that are there today, maybe around, do not do. So they do not incentivize people being able to benefit from the system in a legal way. And often you'll find that people usually often resort to illegal means to still benefit from the system. But how about making that all very clear, all easy to understand, all formal, so that everybody knows that by doing this, this is the personal benefit that accrues to me as an individual. Okay, something to think about. So when you think about those things that we've just discussed, you'll often realize that the reason why people, many companies in Kenya do not seem to do very well with systems is because people do not know how to design it, or probably many of us have not learned how to design systems that work for us, that make it easy for people to adopt. We probably come from that very top-down, commands-driven background that says this is what must be done, so you have to do this and this, without really thinking about the human element. How can we get people to really feel that this matters to me as an individual, and this is something that I want to do? And so that human element is what we need to begin thinking about a lot more in 2026, ensuring that people not only are pushed or compelled or coerced to embrace the system, but actually feel that they want to be able to do or to be able to adopt and buy into the system that you're trying to create. And this is where our role as HR now becomes very, very critical. Because if there's anybody who is going to do this, a lot of it will probably come from HR. That many of us probably have our company policies, our staff manuals, our staff policies, almost by memory. But then, if we are going to be able to implement systems across the business, across the enterprise that are really going to help our businesses succeed, then we're going to have to do several things to be able to move in that direction. Number one, if you think about your organization, you'll need to ensure that the roles are defined. So does everybody have a job description that is clear as to what is expected of them? Very clear performance indicators that show that this is the outcomes we expect, and this is maybe also these are the possible rewards that will come from being able to hit your targets. Do the processes exist? Do people need to know? Do people have the processes very clearly stated, and is it in a place that people can easily access? Has everyone been trained to be able to perform as best as they can in their particular role? Is management complying to the systems that have been created? Is the onboarding consistent? Is the culture intentional, where people know that this is what we're trying to create, rather than it just being haphazard and chaotic, as we have discussed? So the more we work on this, the more we think about, if we think about our organizations today, when you think about maybe areas where there are gaps, maybe areas that need improvement, these are some of the things that you can be able to use to be able to create order out of chaos that might be existing currently. So what is it that we can probably try and do over the next 18 months? maybe going forward? Well, and we'll need to ensure that our companies are structured, disciplined. We'll need, and because if you have better systems, one of the things that you're going to be able to do is to make it more data driven rather than it just being about vibes and how you feel about a situation. We'll want to have decision making that is more data driven. The company might feel a bit boring. It may not have all the drama that maybe we're used to. But then, even though it is structure driven, data driven, process driven, system driven, you'll find that it will always lead to better outcomes. And that is because the future into which we're heading, going into 2026, 2027, and beyond, is a future that is going to be more focused on artificial intelligence, automation, and all these new technologies that are probably going to do a lot of what we are doing currently in our organizations. If you look at the West, you look at companies in the Americas and elsewhere, already they've started laying off staff because of the technology that is coming into place. Now, that fear that many have, and some of us have even have described, where people fear that they are going to be replaced, might actually become a reality. And maybe it may become a reality in a way that we may not really always be ready for. But when we begin now to systematize, when we begin to create order, structure, and so on, then even if the technology comes, you'll often find that what it does is simply augment our abilities to be able to do and go much further without necessarily meaning that that is a loss of jobs. So yes, change is coming, more order is coming, but we want to be in a place where we can benefit from the change rather than become a casualty of that change that is definitely going to come to our shores. So what is it that you can do in the short term, maybe in the months leading up to in the months from leading up to January and February? Well, here's an assignment that you could probably start off with this week. Look at all the processes that you have in your organization. And maybe you know some of them. Maybe you can think of some that critically need a bit of structuring and ordering and so on. The first thing that you'd want to do is to document it. Document the processes. If no documents on that exists, then standardize it. Ensure that it is the same, that you're able to get the same results for across the organization and across the enterprise. Then once you standardize the process, then train your employees or train your people in how to operate in that standardized environment. Then once you've trained them, now you can begin to help them to automate some of the parts that can be done that are done routinely and that don't require a lot of human input or in judgment and so on. And then once you now automate it, the next thing that you want to do is to audit it to ensure that the system is working as you would want it to. So the more you do that, the more you find that the system works very, very well, and the system can even run, allowing you to focus on other things that may just be as critical as maybe the time when you didn't have that system in operation. And I'll probably give an example of people who seem to master this very, very well. They actually create systems that work. Now, some of us probably grew up in large households. How many of us grew up in an environment maybe where we were 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 children? Anyone? Anyone? Yeah. Now, you probably remember that when we were small, we were all taught all these household duties. Yeah. And so you could do the basic ones, you could do what? So that allows your mom to be able to do other things that are just as important. Moms were able to create systems that were able to run homes. Okay. And so you find that even when mom is sick or is traveling, food will be cooked, houses will be cleaned. Oh, Violet, you came from a polygamous family, so you probably know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So you find that the system at home, and if you go to homes where houses are clean, lawns are taken care of, clothes are clean, everybody looks tidy, dishes are washed, food is cooked on time. That is a system, and that's a system that probably the mother of the house had already implemented for it to run. Stacy, you have a point. Go ahead.
Sorry, it was erroneous.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes. Okay. So that concept is what we're talking about. Okay. When we are looking at our organizations, we need to begin to think about them in terms of the processes that are there, and then see how we can do the things, the steps that we just outlined. Pick one process, don't take too many, just one. Document it, standardize it, train it, automate it, and then audit it. So when you do that iteratively, we take another process and so on. So before long, we'll have systems, we'll have processes that will be able to run the organizations and then enable us to be able to achieve much more. And the more you create a small clarity in one area, the more you find that it will want now to create clarity. People will now want, and how about this? So you find that now it creates that momentum. People have already seen that there's a change because of a system that we've implemented. Everybody's happy. Everybody's contributing to that system's success and ensuring that it's working. So you often find that even other departments will probably want something similar. How can we do this? How can we do the same for this? How can we do the same for this? So before long, it becomes a culture that permeates across the organization. Everybody begins to think in terms of systems, and they begin to see the advantages that system will bring. So as we wrap up, as we come to a conclusion, we can say that even though sometimes we find that many organizations are operating in chaos, we can clearly see that chaos is usually will not always lead you to the outcomes that you want to achieve. Systems will always be your best bet. And so as we move into 2026, what is it that we want to do? Let's look at our organizations. Let's look at the systems that are there in place. Let's think about how best we can shift those systems from the chaos that is there to something that is more structured, something that is more orderly, and something that is more organized and disciplined. And to be able to do that, let's remember that all of us, if we play our part, especially as HR, if we guide that process in a way that brings everybody on board, we'll definitely have much better outcomes going forward, and we'll be able to succeed in scaling and creating the kind of organizations where everybody loves coming to work, loves contributing to the bottom line, and ensuring that the organization succeeds and much better outcomes for everybody. Thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from you. Purity, back to you.
Hi, John, and thank you very much. Apologies,
That's all right.
my mic was not turning on.
Okay.
But that was very wonderful, that I must say. Let me put my camera where I'm visible. I think that's much better. And I believe this opens up an opportunity from chaos to clarity. And I like the way you mulikisha people, especially when you put the right systems and processes in place. And I know HR, a lot of times we are blamed for utiaji, because utiaji is just putting systems and processes in place. So whenever I hear that, I feel like, okay, I think we're doing a good job in utiaji, as it might be. But thank you so much. Thank you for also bringing this webinar series to a close. As I said, this year we've delivered over 40 topics. How amazing was that? And I'm very proud of ACCUREX, the team behind the many trainers that have been able to deliver these wonderful topics to all of us. I hope you've gained something. I hope you've learned something. I hope you are better employees. Not watiaji per se, but better in terms of knowledge, better in terms of awareness. You've grown not only as people, but also as professionals. I hope those who are out looking for jobs, they get better jobs as also we bring the year to a close. Also, if you're looking out for a job, it's high time you visit our website to see the opportunities that we have there. And if you are suitable for them, please apply. For the HRs, if you've not planned your end year party or your end of year team building, we are the team to talk to. See, we have a few slots anyway available. December is almost pretty much booked, but we have a few slots. We can slot you in and your team as we bring the year to a close. I know some HRs are thinking of a HR system in January. If this is something that is on top of your mind, talk to us. We have People HRIS. It's a proprietary HR system by ACCUREX. So, and it's able to do everything for you, right from recruiting, managing your employees, managing performance, paying salaries, and eventually offboarding them. So that's a good system available for you. It's subscription based. If you want to buy off the system, the options are there and they're endless. So this is the team to talk to. We love to hear from you and especially what you've learned the entire of 2025. And also, what are you looking towards in 2026? I know as a team, we are sitting down in a few weeks just to think about what more can we do, especially from a training perspective for our clients. A lot of, yes, our clients, I know a few, I have seen them on the call. Thank you for your patronage throughout the year. The trainings you've done for your organizations, the team building, outsourcing this year has been very big for us. So thank you for trusting ACCUREX and our services. At this point, if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. And I believe John is also still on the call to take a few questions, particularly on the topic that you've had or any other topic. This is the opportunity to ask and get answers. But thank you so much for your patronage throughout the year. We are very excited to come back to you in January. Of course, share your ideas, give us an email, give us a call, talk to us on social media. I believe our social media pages are very active. You're able to see what you're doing also even when you're on a break. So just talk to us, engage us. You're happy to integrate your thoughts, your feedback in the new year. So thank you so much. I don't see there are any questions here, John. But John, once again, thank you so much for the many webinars that you've also taken part this year. I hope we come back next year more fresh, better ideas. This year for sure, what caught me aback was I feel like almost 10 topics we talked about AI and technology. And being a HR company, I was like, this is not us. But it's trainers like you and our audience that are also pushing us in unfamiliar waters. And for me, every time we could do a topic on technology and AI, I was like, then we are early adopters. You are leading the path in HR. So thank you so much. Also for this wonderful session, I've taken a few points home for sure. And I think the bottom line for me, especially for this webinar, is just create clarity across, regardless of the reputation it brings. But I think the more clear things are, people also get to enjoy workplaces that are structured. They know this is time for off. They know this is time to take a break. They know this is time to work. So I think they appreciate that. So thank you so much, and everyone else who joined us. If you have any sort of feedback whatsoever, give us feedback. There's a feedback from running on the chat box. So feel free to give us feedback. And thank you so much. This is a break for us at ACCUREX. Our first webinar should be mid-January, end of January, thereabouts. We are yet to figure a date. So keep safe. I hope you enjoy your holiday, end of year holiday, be it a Christmas holiday for you. I hope you enjoy. Also, Happy New Year in advance, and I hope to see you again in the new year. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.